Welcome. You're listening to the Keeping Ashland Healthy podcast, a podcast production of the Mental Health and Recovery Board of Ashland County, Ohio. Thanks for joining us. And welcome back to another episode of Keeping Ashland Healthy. My name is David Ross. I am the Executive Director here at the Mental Health and Recovery Board, and in studio with me is Hunter Edwards. Welcome, Hunter.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, this is going to be an exciting episode. We are at the beginning of kind of a series of podcasts that are all going to be related that we're going to talk about with Hunter and then some special guests over the series of interviews. But Hunter works at Ashland University in psychological counseling services and student affairs. And I'm going to ask him to talk to you all a little bit about what he does there. I've known Hunter for some years now, both before he was, I think, formally an employee of the college, maybe doing some internship or other work with Dr. McKnight. But maybe introduce yourself a little bit, Hunter, to the audience. I know you as this wonderful, talented individual, but they don't know you yet, Hunter. So
yeah, I appreciate the kind words. So like you said, my name is Hunter. I am a licensed professional counselor at Ashland University. So that's in their student affairs department. We have 3 full-time counselors. Our director, Dr. Oscar McKnight. So I've been there. This is technically my first semester as a full-time counselor.
I see.
For the past 2.5 years, I was a case manager and a mental health educator through a grant. So I was able to transition into the counselor role starting this semester, or I guess it would be the fall of 2025. So
that's awesome. So you kind of knew a lot about the university and the folks before you ended up working there officially.
Yeah, I wanted to test out the waters a little bit, a couple of years just to see if I fit in, if I liked the people there, and it worked out great. So yes, I wanted to stick around.
Yeah, so as I mentioned to the audience earlier, this episode's a little different because we're basically going to overview maybe a series of upcoming conversations that we're going to be having with some Ashland University professors, staff, other folks there, and what they're doing in their teaching, their researching, and how they support various aspects of mental health that the Mental Health and Recovery Board of Ashland County helps support in a variety of ways. So we're doing this because Hunter and others went after a grant to help support this effort. So if you could maybe just start by talking a little bit about that grant and what that grant is hoping to achieve.
Yeah. So our grants department, Stephanie Bull over there, who's been great, she reached out to Janelle Molnar and myself. So Janelle is the director of Rec and Wellness over at AU, does great work. They reached out with a potential $10,000 grant from the Northeast Ohio Medical University through the Ohio Program for Campus Safety and Mental Health.
Gotcha.
So we basically what the grant is they want you to partner with a community organization. And we've had great partnerships through the Mental Health Recovery Board, through you. And so we were trying to brainstorm some ideas of how can we partner with them. And we kind of came up with this idea to, well, why not use some of the money for the podcast? And whether it was to bring on speakers or to kind of have this series. And so that's kind of how it came to be. We wanted to partner with you and kind of enhance the podcast however we can with these grant funds. And that's kind of how we came up with this series.
No, I think that's great. We appreciate you thinking of us. But, you're right. We've been partnering. The board and AU has been partnering for decades now. And I think back to some of the early years when we started doing question, persuade, refer, which is our suicide prevention approach. It's got to be a decade or more. And obviously I've known Dr. McKnight for over 20 years.
He's an old man.
Yeah.
So.
But just for the audience as well, you've heard me talk about question, persuade, refer. I'm very excited because I think Hunter and I, for the first time, we're going to be able to, this year, we should be able to do co-train on that model over at the campus. I was hopeful that I would have somebody more permanent there on campus that was trained because so much of, the R part of QPR is about where to refer and how to refer on campus and, not working there. That was always kind of a weakness for me. So I am excited for us to start co-training on QPR here coming up actually fairly soon. We'll be doing some training. So, let's dive in because I know the audience is curious. Yes, they want to hear from all these speakers, but I think they also want to know, what in your role, Hunter, what are you seeing? What are you noticing? So maybe my first question for you is this: maybe to just describe your current role at the university, and maybe the work that psychological counseling services does with students.
Yeah, so like I said, as a counselor there on campus, our main role is to see students for mental health counseling. We could see anywhere from 5 to, in our busiest time, 10 students a day for individual counseling. Typically the fall, when students are arriving on campus, that's kind of one of our busier times.
Yeah.
And as we approach finals week, things can get a little hectic on a college campus,
Sure.
as you can imagine. So we're treating a wide range of issues. I like to say, it could be homesickness to, suicidal ideation. It's really
the whole range.
the whole spectrum. It could be anxiety over finals week, or someone experience some PTSD from a sexual assault. So
Yeah.
it can go from maybe one of what you'd say is less severe to the very most severe. So we're treating, like I said, a wide range of symptoms and struggles that these students are coming in with.
Yeah, and I think that's something that I think the audience would be interested in, is there's such a range. And again, for the most part, we're talking, I don't know, young people, 18 to 22-ish, so a lot of them maybe first time away from home, maybe living there on campus, a lot of them. And as I say sometimes when I do the QPR training, for a lot of individuals, it might be their first serious relationship.
Yes.
Which inevitably leads to the first major breakup, which is stressful, Hunter. I would imagine you deal with some relationship issues.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and even a lot of times these students, it's the first time they're away from their parents. They're away from home. And so all of a sudden, it's time to be an adult. And it's difficult. I remember myself going through that. So I can relate.
Have you run into any kind of helicopter parents where they send off their youngster, and then the kids like trying to like separate, but the parents are like, "Oh, how you doing, Johnny?"
Yes. Sometimes some parents have a hard time letting go of that control.
Yeah.
I try to send all those to Dr. McKnight.
Yeah.
I try not to handle all that.
Well, let me ask you, from your perspective, what does mental health awareness maybe look like on college campus today, and maybe how that's changed since you've been involved?
Yeah, so I think today, one of the biggest things that I've noticed is students are just more open about their struggles. They're more open about wanting to talk about mental health. So I think there is just a greater sense of awareness that, hey, people are struggling. They're going through hard things.
Yeah.
And they're also willing to have those difficult conversations. It's not so much of a let's keep it to myself and struggle in silence. So that's as far as awareness goes. I do think students, faculty, staff on campus today are just more aware that these things are happening.
Yeah.
And another thing I've noticed is just mental health programming being student led. Students are wanting to take charge and
Interesting.
And just embracing overall mental health challenges, doing different activities with mental health themes. And there's a lot of staff and faculty backing and buy-in. Like we are letting these students take charge, and we want to come alongside them, but allow them to lead. And I think that's really been something that I think has been really awesome with students taking that charge and that lead.
So it does sound like we've talked about reducing stigma for years, and it sounds like, based on what you said, Hunter, your observation is maybe we are making some progress with the students being more open to discuss some of these issues, and maybe help seeking isn't as hard a sell as it used to be, because as you know, back in the day, the stigma around, getting help for some of the things that are bothering you, if kids opened up at all, that was rare. But now it sounds like maybe we're turning a corner.
Yeah, I don't know if we're quite there fully, but I do think there's just more of an overall acceptance with students of just admitting, like, I'm having a hard time. I need help. I do think there is less stigma. Like I said, we're not there yet. It's not fully there, but making progress.
I'm hoping one of the future episodes will be about some of the wellness team efforts there on campus. And I think this audience knows whether it's our suicide prevention awareness walk or other events that we partnered with the college on. I've mentioned the wellness team there. And I think that has to be at least not the only, but maybe one thing that you all are doing on campus to let students know that it's okay not to be okay.
Yeah. And like I said, it's a lot of it's student led. So having our student wellness team, I know there's Morgan's Message on campus. There's SAC with athletics. They're really taking an effort to make mental health a priority on campus.
Yeah. Well, are there any misconceptions about counseling or mental health that you find yourself maybe challenging with the students? So this would be, the students come in with some ideas that aren't quite correct, some misconceptions coming in that you have to maybe sit down and say, well, it's not quite like that.
Yeah, there's a few. I think the one that sticks out the most to me is this idea of I should be able to handle this on my own. So these students, they come in, they're struggling. Sometimes they just feel like I should be able to take care of this. I'm equipped, but the reality is they need help. And sometimes that there is that stigma and maybe that shame element of I shouldn't have to ask for help. I should be able to take care of this. And so that's a misconception. And another one is that I see sometimes is I have to be in crisis to receive counseling.
Oh, good point. Talk about that more.
Yeah, so I think oftentimes young people, students, they feel like they have to be at that breaking point to receive help. And I don't think that's something that is actually true. That they should be able to come when things are still going okay. It shouldn't have to be, I'm in crisis. I need to be going to the hospital right now to finally seek help.
Right, because that actually might even be preventative if they realize it's okay. I'm struggling. It's not out of control, but I am struggling. It's bothering me. It's okay to reach out then. They don't have to wait until, as you say, they're in some full-blown crisis mode.
Yeah.
Well, good. I like that. I think there are a lot of misconceptions. One of the things Dr. McKnight and I've talked about before is accommodation. So oftentimes young people are coming from a high school environment where because they received a particular label, mental health label, they're kind of anticipating a certain level of accommodations from professors in their coursework. And I know that's sometimes a challenging things to talk with them about what that's going to look like at the college setting versus the high school setting. So I know there's some education and learning that goes on with that. So
definitely.
Another question for you, without getting into, again, I never ask you to say anything confidential, but can you share maybe general trends, like what you're seeing, and maybe because you mentioned there's other counselors, any of the general trends you all are seeing there on campus, maybe changes in demand for services or the kinds or challenges students are facing?
Yeah. So like I said, I've only been there a few years, but some of the things that we as a team have noticed is just this increase in number of students who have been receiving counseling and psychiatric medication prior to coming to college. So oftentimes, every time actually, in the intake process, we ask, have you received counseling before? What sort of medications or if any? And we're finding more and more students have actually been receiving counseling in high school, middle school as a young kid. And also being on psychiatric medications and sometimes multiple medications. So
they might be coming into the university, coming to see you with all this history. And then, so are you able to then reach back out to their previous doctors, providers to kind of get some with permission, I'm assuming, and you can get some of that information?
Yes, it's been helpful. Some of that systems work, reaching out to their previous counselors, some of their psychiatrists, and getting some of that background information has been helpful. But it is an interesting trend that we have seen that I would guess maybe 10 to 15 years ago, if you asked a student, have you received counseling in the past? My bet would be, no, never been. But now it is more, I started in 8th grade. I had a great counselor. So that's been an interesting trend.
Yeah. Something else that Dr. McKnight and I touched on, I want to see your thoughts on it, is maybe the modality might be changing. So, and what I mean by that, audience, is the days of maybe coming into an office, sitting down face to face. Are you seeing changes there with what maybe some of the preferences of how the students receive kind of the help? Oh,
definitely. I think most of the students that we see are more than willing to be seen online. So with an online confidential platform, whether it's in the comfort of their dorm, they're walking, doing a little campus walk. We try to say we're not going to see you if you're driving, so none of that.
That's right.
But yes, more students are more willing to be seen online. I know we still have plenty that are coming in person, but I would say maybe since COVID, I think more students are being willing to just do the virtual counseling rather than that in-person piece.
Yeah, and any texting?
I don't specifically do texting, but I know Dr. McKnight, he's talked about that in some group supervision as far as he does some texting, whether it's, hey, just a check-in with what they're working on that week. I would say it's not necessarily these big, long conversations, but more of the check-in. So I know that is happening.
Yeah. yes, some of these kind of frequent, shorter check-ins, as you say, can be helpful for some folks. The other thing, I think, not that we have to say a lot about it, Hunter, unless you want to, but I think the audience should understand that, students are coming and talking with you and the other counselors, not just about academic stuff. Is it fair to say, I mean, they're talking about life issues that extend beyond what's happening on the campus. So is that fair to say that these are like life issues oftentimes that they're coming to you about, not just academics purely?
Definitely. I mean, I use this kind of term like life stressors. Like,
Okay.
Yes, we have students come in, talk about academics, hey, I'm struggling in this class.
Yep.
But a lot of it's, hey, I just had a relative pass away, or I just, I experienced some domestic violence sort of thing. Like, these are big, heavy things. And on top of that, they're trying to be successful in their classes and their academics. So of course it makes it difficult. But yes, I would say 100% these are big life stressors that these students are experiencing.
Yeah. And again, I know there's a lot of student athletes at Ashland, and I don't know how many of those you might have encountered, but that to me always adds another layer, right? So we've got academics, but now, maybe they're there on a scholarship of some type, but they want to perform, this is a different kind of class, if you will. This is a gridiron class, and they want to perform it to their peak. And then what happens with injury? What happens if maybe they don't get, they're not starting or whatever it might be. So I just think some of the work with the student athletes you are doing is just incredible, because these young people, I think it's easy for us to forget, especially old people like me, just how much pressure.
Yeah.
These are young men and women, and they're juggling a lot. It's not just academics, I guess, I want the audience to know.
Yeah, and to go along with that, this idea of identity. A lot of these student athletes.
Who am I?
Yeah, who am I? Who am I if I'm not starting? I started all 4 years in high school, but now all of a sudden, coach is telling me, well, you're on the bench, and so who am I? Or my injury is making me not be able to practice right now. Who am I if I can't be out there on the field performing the way I'm used to? So I would say the identity is definitely wrapped up in that.
Yep. Let me see this question here. AU has a number of mental health initiatives, events, and educational efforts already underway, and maybe highlight a few that you think are upcoming that might be especially important right now for us to know about.
Yeah, so one thing that Janelle Molinar and I have been doing with the grant is this Signs of Suicide online self-guided training. So we launched that back in the fall, and so far we've had over 500 completions of this 30-minute training, helping you recognize the signs of suicide, knowing the referral procedures on and off campus.
Yep.
And we sent it out to students, faculty, staff, parents, basically anyone connected with Ashland University. We sent this training out to, and that was funded through a grant from the previous year. And then to go along with that, with this current grant, we were able to purchase crew necks with mental health, positive mental health messaging.
Oh, cool. And
also with the 988 suicide logo. So what I think has been great is we've been able to use these crew necks as an incentive to complete the training. And also I think it helps reduce the stigma of students, faculty, staff embracing wearing.
Right. So they see somebody wearing it.
Yeah. They're like, oh, wow, yeah, I have that same sweatshirt. And it says, oh, your mental health matters. Yeah. Just something as simple as that. I think it goes a long way. And not only are they doing the training, but they get to kind of have some of that mental health swag, as we like to call it.
Yeah. Now, Janelle had forwarded me when she was first thinking about doing the SOS, the Signs of Suicide, and I went through a couple of the versions, and I think it's a nice complement to what we're doing with QPR and what we've been doing. So I'm glad that you guys are ramping that up. I love the idea of the shirts. So as part of the series, our audience is going to hear from several different voices from different perspectives there on campus. And maybe from your perspective, Hunter, why do you think it's important that we hear from these different perspectives?
Yeah, I think it's so important because one of our goals is to make sure that mental health is not owned by one office on campus. We want it to be a campus-wide commitment where faculty and staff are bought in. And so if we can have other people that are sharing about mental health in their own profession, whether it's education, business, athletics, we think that's so important. And also these professors, athletic trainers, coaches, they often are the one, they're the first line. They're the ones seeing the students more often, other than maybe their roommate and their friends, but they're the ones seeing the student the most. And so we think it's vital that they are being involved and these mental health conversations, and being equipped with knowing the referral procedures, understanding how to basically refer someone on campus to different mental health resources. So yeah, I think it's so important that faculty and staff and these other speakers are going to be plugged in.
No, I think that's so wise at the university. I appreciate that answer because, yeah, that idea that we're just going to limit who on campus is aware and as experts, broadening that to as wide as you guys are trying to do, I think that makes a lot of sense. And because you just never know who might be in the position to be the help, to be the resource person, to be the support person. And you're right. When I was first approached about doing the QPR with the coaches and the trainers, I took a beat and I was like, I had to think about it. And then I said, oh, that makes total sense because of all the time we just talked about student athletes, all the time that some of these coaches and trainers are spending with these young people, and they might know them better sometimes than their own family because they spend, and then they might see them, as you say, through an injury or maybe a disappointing loss or a disappointing, because they're not starting. So, and they might hear things that might be concerning, but they wouldn't necessarily know how concerned if they didn't go through some of the training like the QPR. So, no, that was just the start of it for me, noticing that the campus really has been broad-minded in getting as many people on campuses involved. So that's great. And maybe as we're working towards the end here, what do you want parents, community members, students themselves maybe to know about reaching out to help early and the importance of that?
Yeah, so reaching out for help early, it's not necessarily an overreaction. I think really it's an act of care. So I think sometimes, like we said earlier, waiting to that breaking point, that's what leads to more of a reactionary response. We're trying to do more prevention work. Yeah. And I think that's something that's changed in recent years. So when we're reaching out for help early, it kind of goes a long way in reducing disruption to your daily life activities. And also, maybe your problems might just seem a little more manageable. Yeah. When you ask for help early, when it's not quite to that breaking point, you're able to have people come alongside you and walk with you through the struggle rather than, our choice is to send you to the hospital. And that's really it because you're at that breaking point. Yeah. So when we're reaching out early, you're left with many other choices rather than kind of that last decision that we have to make when things get serious.
Right. Well, Hunter, I'm excited about this series. I'm hopeful that folks will take away from it just a greater appreciation of what you all do on the campus. Is there anything in particular you want folks to take away from these episodes as we drop them? And like I said, it'll be a series of them over a period of time here in the upcoming year. But is there anything you really want folks to take away from the series?
Yeah, just a couple things. So one, mental health, it's a shared value on campus. At Ashland University, we want it to be something that students, faculty, and staff are all bought in for and are committed to. Yeah. And then also, struggle and success can happen at the same time. I think oftentimes students think they're only struggling and there's no good that can come from it. And so I'm hoping through this series we can kind of normalize, the college experience is difficult. You're going to go through some hard things, but you can still find success even in the struggle.
Yeah. Well, Hunter, thank you so much for your time and all your efforts in this, helping put the grant together and to see it through. I appreciate the work that you're doing with the students. I've seen it firsthand. The students seem to really, I think, trust and appreciate you. I've seen that firsthand. I'm looking forward to these conversations and just highlighting the ways that AU continues to partner with our community. It's a longstanding partnership that benefits all of us. So thank you again, Hunter, for doing this.
Of course, David, I appreciate you having me.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Keeping Ashland Healthy podcast. The podcast is a production of the Mental Health and Recovery Board of Ashland County, Ohio. You can reach the board by calling 419-281-3139. Please remember that the board funds a local 24/7 crisis line through Appleseed Community Mental Health Center. It can be reached by calling 419-289-6111. That's 419-289-6111. Until next time, please join us in Keeping Ashland Healthy.